If you've ever been treated like the responsible one in your family, the fixer, the wallet, the silent sacrifice everyone depends on but no one thanks, then stay with me. Because this story isn't just about leaving a party, it's about what happens when the person holding everything together finally lets go. Before we begin, take a second. If this story hits close to home, hit like, subscribe, and comment below. You're not alone, and your story matters. My name is Kayla Thompson. I'm 32 years old, and I work the admin desk at a mid-sized bank in Syracuse, New York. Late December has a weight to it here, the kind you feel in your bones. Snow that never seems to stop. Wind that cuts through your coat like it's personal. Streetlights flickering like they're already exhausted from pretending everything's festive. That night, I pulled into my apartment parking lot after a long shift, badge still clipped to my jacket, hands numb from gripping the steering wheel too long. I'd barely kicked off my boots when my phone lit up. Mom and Dad. I already knew why they were calling. I answered anyway. Their voices came through together, overlapping, practiced, efficient. Richard and Susan Thompson, my parents. No, how are you? No, are you tired? No pause. Straight to business. New Year's is at our place this year, Mom said. About 50 people, Dad added. You know what needs to be done, Mom continued. Upscale, Dad said. Don't let us lose face. No details, no discussion, no budget, no please. Just assumption. The same assumption they've made for years. I stood there in the dark living room, my breath fogging in the cold air. The heater hummed softly, the only sound in the apartment. I opened my mouth, closed it. And the words came out the way they always did. Of course. They made a satisfied sound. Hung up first. I didn't move for a long moment. Years of this exact scene rushed back all at once. Every holiday, every gathering, every family tradition that somehow landed on my shoulders. I walked to the closet and pulled out my old suitcase, the one with scuffed edges, the zipper I'd fixed years ago with a paperclip. I didn't pack everything, just enough to make it real. This time, I wasn't arguing, I wasn't explaining, I was leaving. And when they found the short note I planned to leave on their kitchen table, I knew their faces would drain of color. But the real surprise? That was still coming. If you've ever swallowed a yes when every part of you was screaming no, drop a comment below. What finally made you stop? I sank onto the couch, phone sliding from my hand onto the coffee table. No explosion of anger, no tears, just exhaustion. The kind that builds quietly over years. I stared at the blank wall and let one memory surface, the one that still stung the most. Last New Year's. Work had been brutal, long hours, end-of-year deadlines stacked back to back. My manager had hinted at a promotion if I could take on the year-round audit project. More pay, better title, a real step forward. I wanted it badly. Then the call came. Same voices, same tone. 50 people this time. You know what we need. Make it nice. No question, just expectation. I spent 3 straight days after work driving to specialty stores. Imported seafood, aged steaks, wine bottles that cost more than my monthly rent. At checkout, I watched the total climb. Over $8,000 in one weekend. I told myself it was temporary. I always did. By New Year's Eve, I was running on caffeine and adrenaline. 12 hours in their kitchen, cooking, plating, serving. They chatted in the living room like guests at a hotel. At one point, I stepped outside into the snow just to breathe. My phone buzzed. A work email. The promotion went to someone else. You've seemed unavailable lately. That was it. I stood there in the cold, chest tight, realizing I'd traded my future for their party. When I went back inside, Dad clapped me on the shoulder. "You're a good daughter," he said. "Family first, right?" Mom added. "That's what daughters do. Sacrifice a little." I smiled, nodded, went back to the sink. I didn't mention the overdraft notice that arrived 2 days later, or the interest charges, or the skipped meals to make minimum payments. The memory faded. My hands were clenched in my lap. I picked up my phone and called Sarah. She answered on the second ring. "They called," I said. "New Year's. 50 people." A pause. "And you said, 'Of course,'" she replied. "I'm tired, Sarah," I whispered. "Not angry tired, just done." She didn't rush the silence. "You've been their bank and their maid for how long?" she asked. "And what do they give back? Guilt?" "They don't see it that way," I said. "Of course they don't," she replied, "because it works." Then she asked the question that changed everything. "What happens if you don't?" I closed my eyes. Chaos, disappointment, whispers. "And if you do?" she asked. I pictured another credit card statement, another piece of myself gone. "You're not their ATM," she said gently. "You're allowed to stop." I thanked her and hung up. The suitcase sat open on the floor. I added another sweater, then another. Each item felt like reclaiming something small but important. The clock ticked past midnight. Tomorrow was a work day, but it was also the day everything changed. I zipped the bag halfway and set it by the door. Then I turned off my phone. Before we go further, pause for a moment. If you're still listening, it means something in this story feels familiar. If you've ever been the one everyone depends on and drains, like, subscribe, and comment. Because the next part, that's where the silence turns into consequences. I slipped out before dawn. No lights, no noise. The drive to my parents' house took 25 minutes. Empty roads, snow piled high, streetlights glowing like witnesses. I parked on the street instead of the driveway. Less noise. The spare key slid into the lock easily. Inside, the house smelled like pine and old coffee. I moved straight to the kitchen. The pantry was stocked exactly how I'd left it. Imported items, specialty foods, everything they expected me to turn into perfection. I started packing. Quiet, efficient. Then I heard footsteps upstairs. My body froze. Mom. I didn't panic. I grabbed the fullest bags and headed for the back door. The motion light snapped on. Bright, exposing. I kept moving, loaded the car, drove away without headlights until I turned the corner. My hands shook, but I didn't stop. I drove to a diner parking lot and made the calls. Canceled the catering, canceled the cleaning service. Each cancellation felt like cutting a string, painful but freeing. I left the note on the kitchen island. 6 words. No apology, no explanation, just truth. Then I drove towards somewhere quiet, somewhere mine. When I turned off the highway and followed the narrow road toward the cabin, the world felt like it had been turned down to a whisper. Snow clung to the trees. The frozen lake stretched out like a blank page. No expectations. No voices telling me who I was supposed to be. For the first time in years, I could breathe. I unlocked the cabin, stepped inside, and let the door close behind me. Silence. Not the awkward kind, the kind that gives you space. I lit the fireplace, sat on the floor, and watched the flames catch. My phone stayed on silent. I didn't need to see what I already knew was coming. Because back at my parents' house, the morning was unraveling. They woke up expecting control. What they found was absence. The pantry shelves were bare, the refrigerator empty. No trays delivered, no music playing, no smell of rosemary or garlic, just quiet. And the note. 6 words, sitting right where my mom always places her coffee mug. They didn't call right away. That's the thing people like them do first. They assume it's a mistake, that I overslept, that I'd show up apologizing, that I'd fix it. Relatives started arriving around mid-morning, SUVs lining the driveway, kids running in the snow, coats piled up inside. They walked into a house with nothing waiting for them. No food, no drinks, no decorations. Confusion spread fast. "Where's Kayla? Is she running late? Did something happen?" My parents stood there, frozen. They didn't have answers, because for the first time, they had no script. Aunt Linda noticed first. She always did. She walked into the kitchen, opened the fridge, then slowly closed it. Nothing. She turned around and asked calmly, "Who's been paying for all this every year?" No one answered. She didn't raise her voice, she didn't accuse, she just waited. Silence stretched. Finally, she said it out loud. "Kayla did." The room shifted. People looked at each other differently now. Receipts were remembered. Deliveries made sense. The scale of what had been taken became visible. The perfect holiday wasn't a tradition, it was labor. Unpaid, unthanked, expected. And it was gone. They ordered takeout. Pizza, fried chicken, whatever was open. Paper plates replaced fine china. Plastic forks replaced silverware. No one posted photos. No one bragged. The celebration felt smaller, realer, awkward. My parents barely spoke. They didn't offer to pay. They didn't explain. They just sat there, watching their image collapse quietly. Midnight came and went. No champagne, no toast. Just reality. At the cabin, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt calm. That surprised me the most. Revenge isn't always loud. Sometimes it's just stepping away. Days passed. I walked by the frozen lake, sat on the porch with a blanket, let my nervous system settle. I didn't check my phone. Then Aunt Linda called. She told me what I already sensed. The questions didn't stop after that night. Relatives started connecting dots. Why was it always Kayla? How much did she spend? Why didn't we notice? My parents didn't defend themselves. They couldn't, because any defense would have required admitting the truth, that they let it happen, that they benefited, that they never stopped it. The silence between them grew heavier, not angry, exposed. Weeks passed. I extended my stay, then I changed my phone number. Then I sent the email. Short, clear, final. No contact. And here's something important, especially if you're listening from the USA, UK, Canada, or Australia. As an adult, you are legally allowed to walk away. You don't owe access. You don't owe explanations. You don't owe emotional labor forever. Boundaries aren't cruelty, they're survival. Life without them was quieter. Bills got paid on time, my credit score recovered, I stopped flinching when my phone rang. I took the promotion when it opened again. I worked normal hours. I cooked meals that were mine. No 50-person spreads, no debt disguised as duty, just peace. I didn't hate my parents. I just stopped carrying them. And that's the part people misunderstand. This wasn't revenge, it was consequence. They built a system where my silence powered their comfort. When I removed myself, the system failed. Not because I wanted it to, Because it depended on something that was never guaranteed: me. Holidays came and went. No calls, no demands. The quiet stayed. And in that quiet, I heard my own voice for the first time. Clear, steady, enough. If this story felt familiar, if you've been the one everyone leans on until you break, if you've ever wondered what would happen if you stopped, then hear this. You're not selfish. You're not cruel. You're not wrong. You're just done being used. If this story helped you feel seen, like this video, subscribe for more stories like this, and comment below, what's the boundary you're afraid to draw? I'm listening. And if you're standing at the edge of your own quiet decision, trust yourself. Sometimes the strongest revenge is choosing yourself and never looking back.